Today I am showing you how I make this crochet and tulle skirt. I've already done the first two layers. The bottom layer I did the strips of tulle that are folded over in that knot, like you can see there in those crochet openings. And the second layer in the gold, I use the technique that I am going to show you in this video. I'm going to be doing the top layer in that same way. In my pattern, I tell you how to calculate how many pieces of fabric you will need to do each layer, but for this I'm showing you how to calculate the width of each piece of fabric in each of the crochet openings if you have a set amount of fabric. So I had 6 pieces of fabric and my fabric is 70 inches in width, which equals 420 inches around. And in the top layer of the size I'm doing, there are 46 openings in the crochet portion of that top layer. So 420 inches divided by 46 is roughly 9 inches. So I'm going to be ruching together 9 inches of my fabric into each of those openings. So I'm beginning with my 2.5 millimeter crochet hook and the same yarn that I've used for my whole dress and this skirt portion. And I'm going to be slip stitching into the back of the layer that I'm starting on. After I slip stitch, I really should have slip stitched to the first corner of my fabric, but I forgot to do that. So I should be puncturing that corner of the fabric as the pattern says and pulling a loop through. But now I am chaining 3 and then I am inserting my hook in the next opening. So you put the hook through the opening. Now it's tricky when you're first starting this out, but you will get the hang of it as you go. And the first time it feels a little weird. So I'm doing 9 inches of fabric in that width per opening. So I'm measuring that out and then I'm going to the end of that and puncturing a hole into the tulle using my crochet hook. And I am pulling that through the opening and then I am pulling backwards. I'm going back to that beginning spot, pulling that all the way through. And then I am going to ruche together those 9 inches and puncture 2 to 4 holes. I kind of played around to see what looked best with this. I ended up doing, I think, 4 punctures in between each of those 9 inches. So once you've punctured the holes through, you're going to want to draw through a loop. Sometimes it gets caught, but it's pretty easy with the tulle. And then you're going to chain 3 and then kind of pull that excess fabric out that came through there. And then you're going to do it again. So insert your hook into the next opening and then grab your tape measure and measure that length. For the layer underneath, I did do 6 inches instead of 9 because it was a little more of a stiff fabric. But this one had a really nice drape and was a little bit heavier. So I'm puncturing it again at that 9-inch mark. And I am pulling that through that second opening. And then I am pulling back on the fabric. And nope, my hook fell out. If that happens, just find the hole and put it back through. But I'm pulling back all the way until the previous opening. And then I am puncturing a few more holes, going back along that 9 inches. And then I'm going to draw through a loop through all of that fabric. And then also pull that through the loop on my hook. I am going to chain 3 and then I'm going to do it again. When you get to the end of one of your pieces of fabric, whatever's left over, so I think with this one, I ended up having 2 inches on the end. So then with the next piece, I put the first 7 inches through that hole that it ended on, if that makes sense. So there's no gaps and it's all even. When you get to the end of the skirt band, you're going to fasten off and then weave in the end. And for each of the layers that you use this technique with, you are going to need to fasten off and then slip stitch to the other side. And you'll do that because you need to work from right to left every time, because you're going to want to work with the inside of the skirt facing you so that you don't have what you see in the video right now. So it'll look really nice and pretty evenly ruched on the right side of the skirt.